Today was Dylan's birthday, and Evelyn couldn't find him anywhere in the pack. He had strongly insisted about throwing a party to celebrate his day, and she drowned in thoughts and confusion as to why he wanted to go low-key when he was the alpha of Wolf Creek Pack, and everyone within and without would be more than glad to celebrate him. She bit her inner cheeks hard and left the pack mansion in embarrassment when she was told he wasn't there. She eyed the gift in the bag and sighed, ruffling her hair in confusion as clusters of emotions flooded through her. She retraced her steps back home to wait for him, as he wouldn't refuse to pick her call. Neither did she know his whereabouts. "Hey, Evelyn!" She turned sharply to the voice to stare at a pair of sea-green eyes, a rugged outfit of ripped jeans, and a shirt with a neat white canvas. He smiled at her and extended his hands, which she took instinctively and forced a smile. "Brandon, nice to see you." That was a lie. It wasn't nice to see anyone beside her fiancé right now, whom she badly wanted to give these gifts to. Brandon was just his best friend. Maybe he would know where Dylan was if she pressed further. "Or why are you not at the party?" He raised his brows as if in accusation, and she paid full attention to him this time. Her lips curled up in confusion, and she shrugged. What party are you talking about? Have you seen Dylan?" She dismissed the party business and asked for her fiancé right away, and he chuckled, giving her a nod. "That's exactly where he is, Eve, at the party. I'm surprised not to see you there when you should be by his side," he told her, and she felt her throat parched with dryness as shame washed her body through the sweat that broke on her forehead. Dylan was keen on not throwing any parties, so what was she hearing? Brandon must have sensed her uneasiness and chuckled, waving his hands through his hair. He never failed to flaunt his beauty through little gestures, which made Dylan look worse through his perfect features. "Hop into the car, Evelyn. I'll take you to him," he told her, and she saw him walk towards a parked BMW car. She followed suit, getting in the car and letting her wolf relax a bit since they'd soon be with Dylan. A wave of heavy music and strong alcohol blasted Evelyn's ears and nostrils the moment she entered the dimly lit room with a pool by the side, a 4-seater VIP section with heavy guards at the entrance, a large dance floor where bodies of all kinds rocked against each other. She felt so left out and stupid for not being there to celebrate her fiancé. Brandon shoved a key into her hands and smirked, shouting in the background for her to hear since the music was way too loud. "That's his room, room 2369, just in case he locks it to be alone. You know Dylan in his solitude state, go keep him company," he yelled at her, and she nodded, squeezing the keys in her hands as she turned to leave. A pungent feeling stirred in the pits of her stomach when she saw her stepsisters, rolling and laughing with some pack members, and she tried to push back the burning feeling at the bile of her throat as to why she wasn't invited to this party. She walked up slowly on the stairs, anticipation and excitement coursing through her to meet him. Tomorrow was his coronation and Wolf Creek's gala that would be hosted at once. It was going to be a very wide and unique ceremony, and she giggled in anticipation of becoming his Luna. It was a dream come true, a liberation to be free from her stepmother and her nonchalant stepdad, who had no business in her affair whatsoever. She couldn't wait to be Luna. That would make her have a lot of resources, and maybe some cash to save her poor sister who was on dialysis and struggling for her kidney. She grinned with positivity and inserted the keys. All feelings of disappointment over not being informed about the party drained with an exciting feeling, and she pushed the door open. The room was so large and exquisite, the cold AC hit her skin, and her mate's scent hit her. "Fuck, that's it, Nelly, bounce it back to me." A husky growl that definitely belonged to her fiancé echoed in the room, and her eyes flew open. "Beer." "Oh, Dylan, please." She heard the voice, and Evelyn shook her head, snapping from her frozen state, and walked past the fancy living room to where the noise was coming from. She pushed the door slowly to see her worst nightmare. Panic attack flooded in immediately, and she held her chest, watching Dylan pounding into her stepsister hard and fast, backing her. They didn't even notice her presence nor her scent until she sobbed out and reached for her bag frantically for her inhaler. Before we dive into this captivating tale, I need to give you a very important heads up about what you're about to experience. Today's story is a steamy, intense werewolf romance that contains explicit, mature content. If you're watching this in a public place, at work, or around family members, I strongly suggest you save this for later when you're alone. Trust me, you'll want your privacy for this one. This isn't your typical bedtime story. It's raw, it's emotional, and it gets pretty heated. Now, if you're curious, intrigued, and ready for a wild ride through the world of lichens, forbidden love, and steamy romance, then you're in the right place. Make sure you're comfortable. Grab your headphones if you need them, and if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This story is going to take you on an unforgettable journey filled with passion, betrayal, revenge, and unexpected love. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Shit, Evelyn! Dylan turned sharply to stare at her in disbelief and quickly wore his pants while her stepsister made no attempt to cover her naked self. What are you doing here, huh? I didn't invite you to come here. Hot blood roared hotly in Evelyn's ears as he asked her such, and she glared at him. You didn't invite me? She scoffed and hit her chest painfully, gasping for breath. Her lungs could rip out of her throat, but this pain was too much to keep quiet. You betrayed me with my stepsister a day to our coronation, and you dare tell me that? She screamed, and Nelly scoffed. Better tell her to use her inhaler before she dies on us. I'm not ready to be an asthmatic killer. Don't be dramatic, Evelyn. Use your inhaler now, he ordered. But she let the tears flow as her body shook with rage at these two. She didn't know when she moved to slap Nelly so hard, but Dylan pushed her away. That's enough, Evelyn. Save yourself the stress before you die from my wrath. He glared at her, and she shook her head in disbelief. Dylan, how dare you, she growled. She was too angry and hurt to endure anything at the moment. I did nothing wrong. You don't expect me to get tied to you so you can leash me off with your sickness and family problems. I will give you an exception because you're my mate and too beautiful. Be my mistress. It's an opportunity anyone would die to have, he said with a hint of pride in his tone, and she slapped him so hard and pulled her inhaler straight to her nose before she ran out of air. To hell with your existence, Dylan, she yelled in tears and turned to leave, slamming the door shut in annoyance. Evelyn had never felt so angry all her life, so betrayed and so damaged since the death of her mother, who passed away from the effect of her sickness, and her youngest sister had to suffer for it. She needed to go and see her later or tomorrow morning, as soon as she was done with work at the Creek's company, her only means and source of livelihood for her brother and sister. Her dad didn't give a damn about them, despite Max and Melissa being so little. His wife had him wrapped all over his head, and her stepsisters were the golden egg to him. Her heart hurt so bad that she wanted to cry, but she shouldn't have done that. That scumbag didn't deserve her tears in any way, no matter how heart-piercing his actions must have caused her. Entering the cozy mansion with home appliance aesthetics and black coffee scent, her shoulders sagged in relief as she moved towards her room to rest her bleeding heart, but Lynn growled in disgust at the scent of her stepmother, who was already in her room. Her clothes were scattered, and part of it was torn. Her boxes were equally turned upside down, and she burned in rage. What made her scream was her savings box. She barely had enough to eat and survive, to talk more of having money for her sister's medical bills. That savings box had been her redemption as she dropped every little cent that came her way. This weekend would complete the weekly bill needed for her sister's dialysis. But she stared at the box in horror as it was broken to pieces and empty. What are you doing in my room? Why did you touch my properties? She screamed in agony as she couldn't contain the pain in her heart and head. She could explode this moment. Moon Goddess should help her not to slap this woman. You're such an insolent brat for asking me such a stupid question. Your father was right about searching your room. If not, I would have blamed it on my precious daughter, who knew nothing about the missing money. She eyed Evelyn with contempt, raising her magenta gown to walk as it flowed to the very soles of her feet. Her hair was packed to the sides with edges, and a loud, shouty red lipstick made Evelyn see her as a witch and a demonic vampire. What missing money are you talking about? Why would you destroy my properties? Evelyn cried. Just return the money in the savings box. It has nothing to do with you. Give it to me now, she yelled with tears rolling down her cheeks, but her stepmother slapped her instead. You're such a shameless thief. You stole from me and hid it there as a disguise, huh? Evelyn couldn't believe what she was spewing right now. What is going on here? Her dad's voice echoed, and she wiped her tears and turned back to face him. Please. I don't know why Mum is doing this, but tell her to return the money she took from the box for Melissa's dialysis. She tried to sound calm, but her tone was shaking with rage. So are you calling your mother a thief? Why are you so mannerless, Evelyn? For before we continue, where are you watching from and how is the weather in your country? While we listen to this story, let's do a little exercise by subscribing and sharing in the comments. She opened her mouth to say something, but he shut her up instantly, making her gulp down her frustrations. I won't hear any more words from you again. You're getting married to the Alpha, right? Tell him to take responsibility for that and don't insult my wife. He spat out in annoyance and walked out, and reality dawned on her and poured into her body. The tears of betrayal, the realization that she wasn't going to get married to her mate, and the raw pains of her savings being scraped away like it never existed, made her break down heavily into painful sobs. She cried bitterly until she slept in her bitter sorrows. The next morning, Evelyn was chased out of the house to attend Wolf's Creek annual gala and the Alpha's coronation. The hall was huge, spacious, and arrayed with expensive mahogany furniture. Everyone was present, and powerful Alphas of different packs to people of different ranks were present to celebrate the day with him. Congratulations in advance, I hope you rule with prosperity. One of the pack members beamed at her and she smiled back bitterly. She's so lucky. I wish Alpha Dylan would choose me instead. Yeah, you wish. She's been with the Alpha for years, so the stage is hers. Congratulations to you, Luna. The woman giggled and bowed, and they all smiled excitedly. If only they knew that she wasn't going to bear such titles to a betrayer like Dylan, but deep down, she wished he would declare her his Luna, apologize, and promise never to do it. She knew she would be so smitten and considerate. Yes, she was that stupid to have her mate back no matter what. Attention everyone, Dylan's deep voice echoed in the hall, stealing the attention of everyone and the place, became silent at once as her heart tugged painfully. He was dressed in his royal apparel, making him look like a Greek prince. She saw her stepsister acting so arrogant and staring at him like a moth. The crowd was so eager to listen to his announcement, as it was time to announce his Luna. Blood and heartbeat plummeted heavily in her ribcage and she sighed. Evelyn! He called, and her eyes glinted in surprise. Her wolf lurched in excitement, and tears of excitement and nervousness were circling around them. Was he going to apologize to her? Was he going to declare her his Luna? Damn, she was going crazy. You're not fit to be my Luna. I, future Alpha Dylan Winston of Wolf Creek Pack, reject you as mate, and I take Nelly James as my future Luna and wife for the pack. Dylan uttered, and the crowd gasped in confusion as they all turned to her in dread. They weren't expecting it, but she saw this coming even though she didn't want it to be true. She's a liability to me, and all her problems would be on my head instead of the pack's. So I wouldn't want to. She raised her hands up in the air to stop him and grabbed the musky-scented man that had been swirling in her nose at the spot she was standing. He looked confused, and before he could say a word, she pressed her lips to his and kissed him. He tasted perfect, and she delved her tongue deeper into his lips, kissing his lower lip and nibbling it. A curse escaped from his throat, and he kissed her back, hungrily and ferociously, not caring about the crowd's stares. She wanted more and more, and she grabbed his hair to ravish his lips as if she couldn't have enough of him, and when she reached for his buttons, he growled, and grabbed her hands, making her come back to reality, and her cheeks flushed in embarrassment. Forgive me, my emotions are all over the place. Alpha Dylan, are you still not over the fact that I dumped you? The crowd gasped in shock and sneered at him. I need my man now, and I've fulfilled my parents' wish by attending your coronation. Don't think too much about me, 'cause he's my fiancé. She smiled at him, raising a proud stare at him, and he walked forward with his jaw dropped. Evelyn? His words choked, and she smirked before turning to the stranger, who looked as if he was in a trance. Let's go, baby. I need you badly before I lose my self-control again. She gave a wink and grabbed him out of the hall. It had been 7 days since the coronation, and the news about Evelyn's imaginary fiancé spread like acid, destroying every item in her life. Her parents called her a slut, while the others called the Alpha an asshole for being so incompetent. Nelly now stayed in the mansion with Dylan, and Evelyn was glad at how things escalated quickly and turned into her favor. but things went sour in her home, and maybe some aspects of her life. She was fired from working in Creek Company under Dylan's orders, and her parents saw this as an opportunity to get back at her by piling chores on her neck and getting her starved as well. "Evie, your phone is blasting," her brother yelled, and she dropped the mopping stick to get her phone from her little brother. "Hello? Yes, is this Miss Evelyn?" A man's voice asked from the other end, and she felt nervous. "Yes, who am I speaking to, please?" she asked in curiosity, and watched her brother walk back to his initial position to continue his video games. "I'm Dr. Klein. I'm reaching out on behalf of your sister in Creek's hospital." Her body froze at the spot and she gulped. "Is everything all right with my sister?" she asked shakily. "I'm afraid we can no longer sponsor your sister's medical space in the hospital. Her health is deteriorating, and we have other patients to attend to. She's moved from the ward and is being taken outside, and unless you pay for her dialysis treatment, we can no longer accept her in the hospital." Blood flowed hotly in her ears at such a heartless statement, and she didn't even know she was already crying. "What do you mean by the hospital sponsoring her medical expenses? I've been doing that myself all this while," she yelled into the phone. "That's not the case right now, Evelyn. She's out of the hospital, so you better come and get her," he retorted and hung up the call on her as tears blurred her vision. Goddess, why was this happening to her? Oh my God, Melissa should never sit outside for long or it might affect her lungs. "Is Melissa all right?" her brother asked, and she wiped her tears and smiled. "Yes, she's good, Max, so get ready to welcome her." "But you're crying," he noticed, and more tears slipped down her cheeks and she wiped it off angrily. "It's tears of joy, Max, don't worry, just be a good boy and wait for me, okay?" He nodded at her and she left the room, sprinting into a run to the hospital immediately. She couldn't believe they would do this to a sick little girl who was barely recuperating. She ran without wasting a breath, ignoring her heart issues till she reached the hospital. The sight that welcomed her broke her heart to pieces, and she dropped down on the floor and crawled to her little sister, who laid there unconscious on the cold floor. "That bastard!" she snarled in pain and quickly took out her inhaler to regain her breath before she lost consciousness too. "You'll be fine, Melissa, I promise. Just hang in there," she cried and whispered to her sister before getting up to meet the doctor, and luckily she saw him toward the lift, talking with a tall figure with broad, plain shoulders. She rushed to where they stood and didn't care about the stares the people gave her, but she clutched on the doctor's coat and knelt down before him to bawl her eyes out. "Please, Dr. Klein, do anything to me but not my innocent, sick sister. She has barely recovered." He scoffed lazily and looked down at her. "That's because you have refused to keep the end of your bargain by paying her bills. This is a hospital and not a charity organization." I know, but a lot is on me right now. Please give her the dialysis treatment, and I'll get the bills in 3 days." Why are you being ridiculous, Evelyn? 3 days is not an option. The facilities in the hospital are not for free, you pay as you use them. Besides, why can't you ask your fiancé to help you, since you had shamelessly denied the only one that could save your pathetic family? "The least I can do is tolerate your sister, who has now become a burden to the hospital," he spat out, taking off his white coat to place it in his hands, and she slowly stood up. "You're so heartless, and my sister is not a burden. My fiancé is none of your business either. All you're requested to do is treat a sick girl. I've been paying for months, and I will repay what I owe the hospital," she growled, with her wolf surging through her eyes along with hot tears. "I'm afraid your sister will die with this arrogance She slapped him so hard and yelled, "She will not die, you devil!" She watched him flash his eyes at her with a glare and order security on her at once. "Touch a hair on her skin and I'll tear you apart," a voice growled. She froze and cowered at the authority of his voice. The man who had been backing them the entire time turned, and she bit her lips. He looked so familiar. No, she knew him. He was the man at Coronation, but why did he look so muscular and scary right now with those pretty eyes? The men all halted at his words as if the god of command had spoken, and they bowed apologetically. "Tell me, Klein, is this how you treat patients in the hospital, crossing boundaries to embarrass my fiancé?" His eyes widened in shock that he dropped to his knees. Who was he, and why was his tone of command affecting her? His eyes looked dark and brutal, and his hands were in a fist. I'm so sorry. I swear I had no idea at all that... The stranger whom she had kissed didn't say anything to Klein but turned to stare at her, with smoldering eyes that depicted concern and a little hint of excitement. Who would have thought that she would see him again here, in such an embarrassing situation? They were both lost at each other's stare, and he dragged her away from their midst to a white, cool office that screamed class and wealth. She wasn't given time to admire the enclosure as he hovered above her, and she cursed at how short she looked when he was tall, domineering, and his neat beards grazed her skin when he lowered his face to her ears. "You, where have you been?" She opened her mouth to say something, but he beat her to it again. "I looked for you everywhere. I didn't know. I'm sorry about that day. I was only overreacting." She apologized to him because she remembered vividly how she had run away instantly the moment they reached outside the hall. "Be my Luna, Evelyn," he stated, and a feeling of disgust ran through her blood, instantly making her scoff. Who the hell did he think he was? "I'll pay you $500 million, just be my bride and give me an heir, then we get a divorce after." Her eyes widened in shock that her jaw dropped in disbelief. $500 million? She asked to be sure, and he nodded, tucking the strands of her hair and staring at her deeply in worry as if she was going to reject his proposal. "Why would I say no? I will marry you, dear stranger." She giggled excitedly and hugged him, but her heart rate dropped instantly and she slipped into unconsciousness. Panic and concern pumped through Adrian's veins as he watched her being wheeled into the wardroom with an influx of doctors rushing to attend to her at once, and he sighed. He wasn't expecting her to pass out after agreeing to his proposal. The best thing that could happen to him right now was seeing her, finding her again after evoking some emotion his wife couldn't evoke. Ever since their encounter at the coronation party, their passionate kiss was stuck in his head like a flame, making him yearn for her scent and those delicate, sweet lips. He didn't want to know about his desperation, so he resorted to looking for her in the pack, a woman whose name he knew nothing about aside from the effect of what she did to his body, and how he couldn't wait to own and claim her again. She was full of life and energy. A wavy, dull blonde hair and hazel eyes was too much to make him run mad for a woman. His body had never heated up this long. Thinking about her was already making his cock hard as fuck, but he knew he had to tame his wolf down and his whole body as well. One of the doctors rushed to him and bowed. "How is she?" Adrian cut his words off and asked him a straight question. "She's asthmatic, malnourished, and her side effects for her sickness have worsened. The inhaler she uses is the worst, as it doesn't even contain a slight ingredient of Ventolin ingredients used in reducing her lungs' pressure. She needs serious rest, Alpha." Devon listed her impaired health status, and Adrian couldn't mask his gasp of disbelief. "That is way too much for one person." The venom and disgust in his tone made his wolf screech in anger, and Devon gulped. "I didn't mention her scars too. She has a lot of them." "What can be the solution for her asthmatic state?" "A permanent solution, Devon." The young man flinched at the sound of his name on Adrian's lips, but he didn't care. His future wife wasn't going to be asthmatic of any kind. He wouldn't tolerate it anyway, and the moon goddess help whoever he found that inflicted those scars on her. "She would undergo surgery, Alpha. That's the only permanent solution." The sudden sparks of lightning and the fresh cold air of earth wafted through his nostrils, and he could sense the rain brewing over. "She'll be treated in the mansion. Send my fiancé out there immediately," he ordered, and Devon nodded, but Adrian could see the hesitation in his act. What is it?" What about Luna? I mean, your wife might not accept the fact that we brought her in without her knowledge." Adrian was forced to roll his eyes at his words, but he didn't. "My wife has no business with this, so don't worry. And when I say take her to the mansion, I mean my private penthouse." Devon's jaw dropped, and there was heavy downpour. The sound of the rain, the manner in which it hit the window panes, was evidence that it was heavy. "Be fast about it, and all her medical expenses concerning her family are now on me." Adrian tucked his hands into his pocket and turned to leave, but stopped abruptly. Before I forget, Devon." He widened his eyes in anticipation, waiting for Adrian's next words. "Fire Klein out of my hospital immediately." Adrian was on the phone with his beta, trying so hard not to get intoxicated by Evelyn's scent, all curled up in his bedroom. "She just left the mansion, Alpha. This time she went alone and used the back door of Mount Peak Pack Mansion." His beta sounded frustrated over the phone, and Adrian chuckled. All right, don't stop keeping tabs on her, Regan. Take photos if possible and store them in electronic files. He reminded him, and Regan groaned. For how long, Alpha? She's fucking with another Alpha right under you for the past 2 years, and you're calm about it. It's high time you dethrone Luna. He growled angrily, and Adrian chuckled, ruffling his hair and staring at the garden through the transparent glass door in his living room. I can't do that now, and don't ask me when. Just do your job, Regan, and we'll be good. Regan let out an exasperated sigh and approved his request. Fine, when are you coming back? The annual PAC celebration for your son is coming up. Adrian grinned at that and shrugged. You will see me there, Regan. Get the fuck off my phone. Regan hung up, and Adrian raised the tumbler of Sherry Blake wine to his lips and savored the fruity taste on his tongue. His body stiffened at the close proximity of her lemon and mixed chocolate berry scent, and he turned sharply to meet her. Holy fuck, this woman. She wore a tiny silky material that left nothing to his imagination. Her blonde hair was in a beautiful mess. Her eyes blinked in confusion, and he made a mistake of raking his eyes to her naked thighs and the full mounds of her chest. Where my mister? This is illegal. I might have agreed to be your wife, but you should have consented to me first. My sister is still there, and my brother is in that godforsaken house alone. She didn't sound angry, she just stated it as a fact and crossed her arms over those perks. I'm sorry you passed out, he told her, dropping the cup on the table beside her and moving so close till there was no space between them. He placed the back of his palm on her forehead. I passed out? Shock laced her face, and she looked down, feeling embarrassed. But it's okay, you're better now, but you need a lot of rest. Thank you, Adrian, he told her, and she smiled. And everything stopped that moment aside from her and the deep dimples that sank beautifully on her face, and he groaned. Thanks, Adrian. Can I bring my little brother over to stay with me? I'm afraid I can't leave him alone there. Anything you want is fine by me, Evelyn. Just say the word and it's yours. He smirked, and she grinned happily like a cute fluffy puppy. Ah, you're sweet, Adrian. Anyway, can I change into something else? I'm totally naked in this nightie and I feel uncomfortable. She asked him freely, but this lady evoked his inner demons that he bellowed at her. Mind your use of words, please. I only said that I'm naked and She repeated the word again, and he pushed the cup to her mouth to drink the juice. Don't tempt me to confirm that, Eve, so please don't say something like that again. He warned, trying to catch his breath. Evelyn had never been so excited in her entire life since last night. What was supposed to be a disaster at the expense of her sister's health turned out to be a bliss mixed with uncertainty at how her life would turn out to be. She was suddenly married to a stranger she kissed at the coronation, and she pressed her lips together as she signed the contract and dropped the pen. His gaze was disturbing, almost sucking her into his stare, but who cared about that when a whooping amount of money was waiting for her at her disposal? Her sister was transferred to the VIP ward in the hospital, and her brother would join her soon. Everything happened so fast, and she chuckled. All she needed to do was marry him and wait. She was going to give him a child, an heir? Who the hell was he? We have a meeting tonight. I'll introduce you to my people today, so get prepared, okay? He asked calmly, and she nodded. Getting up to pack the dishes of the sumptuous meal they just had before he passed the contract for signing. Bar, don't do that, he hissed, grabbed her hands harshly from the plate as if it was poison and made her sit on his lap. Don't you ever raise your fingers to work, you're not allowed to do that. He hummed in her ears, and sparks shot up her spine at his authoritative words. But I want to do it, it's not a big deal. Besides, I've worked for hours before, and it's fine. She replied, and his grip on her waist tightened. He tilted her head to face him, and she gulped, staring at his full lips while he spoke with raw primal masculinity. He looked handsome despite his matured features, and she suddenly wished to see what he looked like without a shirt. He was attractive in every measure, and it was the self-control in her that didn't make her jump on him last night after he gave such a burning stare on her thighs and breasts that hardened instantly. You're not going to do shit being my wife. You're going to rest, eat, sleep, spend my damn money, and give me an heir. Didn't you read the terms in the contract? She bit her lips and nodded at him, but she couldn't help the curiosity that burned her up. This man looked powerful, domineering and possessive, and she knew nothing about him. "Why are you being so nice to me? I kissed you and ran, pushed my problems to you, and you're doing all of this. Do you do that to other women too?" she asked him, hoping he didn't relay the same affection to them because she would feel jealous. "I'm not nice. I'm making an offer for you to be my wife and get me an heir. It's a win-win proposal." His eyes strayed to her lips while he spoke, and she pressed further with her questions. "You need an heir?" He nodded at her question, pulling her tightly to his body. His musky scent was intoxicating. His heat on her body felt so nice and right that she felt protected. "Are you a king? Alpha? I'm both." His hand snaked upwards to the hollow of her neck, and her pulse raced faster. She wanted to say a word, but she sighed instead when he sniffed the crook of her neck and kissed her there. "And you're mine, Evelyn." Okay, I get it. I will be a good wife to the public and pretend while we stay away from each other, right?" She wanted to be sure of a lot of things, even though she had already signed the contract. His little acts were sending sensations around her body, and she wondered if he was doing that nonchalantly, or as an act to distract her because it was working. "Look at us, Evie. Does this look like we are pretending? Or acting like strangers?" he asked, tilting her head towards his face and using his other hand to caress her thighs. His breathing became labored as she licked her lips. "You affect me like an addiction, even without doing anything, Evie, so do whatever pleases you as long as it aligns to the contract," he said with a fixed stare on her lips. She gasped when she felt a growing bulge against her ass, and a groan escaped his lips as their lips connected instantly. She kissed him as if she was being pulled like a magnet. Just like that night, he tasted divine, sweet and heavenly, and her wolf took over her like a wild beast. She didn't know why she suddenly became aroused and horny, but she knew one thing that was certain. Adrian needed her, and she needed him too. She was mateless, but now she was married, tied to him for as long as it may be. She pushed him away from her and got up, and he swallowed in guilt as if he did something wrong, but a moan escaped his lips next when she cupped his bulge and struggled with his buttons. He growled, tearing off his shirt to make her have access while she kissed him hard again, straddling him. His chest was perfect, hard, lean stomach and sizable packs to make her salivate. He kissed her neck, cupped her breasts hard, and she grinded her clit on his hard cock through his pants. "Evie, I need you." He trembled and kissed her hard and raised her skirt upwards to tear her pants that were soaked with her juices. She was so eager, too. They were both lost in the feelings of the moment, and he wasted no time in pulling down his slacks and getting rid of his briefs. "Is this your first time?" he asked sweetly, cupping her clit, and an illicit moan took over her. No, Adrian," she begged, and he pulled her back to his lap and gave a very powerful thrust upwards into her wet core. She screamed in ecstasy and clung to him like life support with thrusts upon thrusts until she finally reached a powerful trembling climax. They left the penthouse after their session and reached a large pack with large facilities, woods, gardenscapes, and a whole scenery of bustling activities in the cities. "Is this your pack?" She peered at him and he nodded, taking her hands inside the well-furnished and decorated rooms. It was a big celebration she couldn't fathom, as they all felt giddy and excited. Their faces fell in disappointment and disapproval at her presence, but it wasn't so obvious as the main theme of the event was centered on something else. "He's finally here," someone shrieked, and the rest followed, but Adrian looked nonchalant as if he was used to this. "Aw, he brought his Luna too. Yes, he's going to be Alpha soon, and I wonder how he's going to manage both packs. He's so cute." Evelyn couldn't help but listen to their conversation, while she eagerly waited to see this golden visitor, and Adrian stuffed more meat and fish on her plate as he ate. "Oh wow! Here he is!" an elderly man exclaimed, and got up to greet a man who just came, and whose face she hadn't seen yet due to their bodily frames. "Welcome home, son. Your father is patiently waiting for you." He chuckled and patted him on the shoulder when Evelyn's heart froze at the figure that stepped in, and she stood up instantly, dread filling her body at the sight of Dylan and her sister. "Dylan!" she gasped in shock, and he had the same expression on his face. "For what the fuck are you doing here? Are you so desperate to have me back that you can't stay away?" he yelled and turned to Adrian, whose eyes held no emotions. Why is she here, Dad? This is totally unacceptable. Evelyn's eyes almost popped out of her sockets in shock. She stared at Dylan and returned her gaze to Adrian, and she gasped with hot tears circling her eyes. What had she done? The resemblance between the duo was identifiable. Dad? She asked, directing the question to Adrian, whose Adam's apple bobbed down hard. She has every right to be here, Dylan. She's my wife, and that makes her your stepmother. Blood drained from her face at his words, and Dylan looked like he could kill as he shook his head in disbelief and chuckled. Evelyn thought she forgot how to breathe for a moment. Panic attack took over her entire body, and she suddenly needed her inhaler. Her hands trembled and her heart tightened in a constricted pain that almost made her lungs choke. What in the world's name did you just call her, Dad? Dylan roared impatiently, his veins visible as ever as sweat broke through his skin while he ranted over. Be calm, Evelyn, you're over him. Breathe, and relax. You're going to be a Luna soon, and he's going to be your stepson. Ah! She burst out laughing, suddenly making everyone confused. What a romantic irony. Her stepsister stared at her with hatred as her eyes twinkled. Her long sequence gown gave her the bodice of a model, but Evelyn knew her heart was as wicked as a Blackstone devil. My apologies, Dylan. I forgot to introduce myself to you and got so caught up in the moment. She smiled, trying to push away any silly emotional thought that wanted to creep into her head. This ex-mate of hers didn't think twice before rejecting her and fucking her sister after years of dedicating her life to him. So why should she give a fuck if his father had to fall into her domain? My name is Evelyn, your stepmother and future Luna. She bowed sheepishly and flinched at his next move. Fuck you, Evelyn. He banged his table with an explosive aura that almost made her shake and dashed towards her instantly, but Adrian was quick to grab her by the wrist to his side. You will never raise your voice at her or insult her, Dylan. Get that into your thick skull and respect the little authority you have left. She's my mate, he growled and trembled in rage. It would be over my dead body that I would allow this to happen. She's your ex-mate, Dylan. Don't forget I'm here, and let her be, since she's always the whore. I told you she would reveal her true colors soon. Nelly scoffed and bit her lips, but Dylan turned to flash her a warning glare. Shut the fuck up and keep quiet. He turned to meet Adrian, who looked unfazed by the whole situation. It was as if he was expecting a situation like this and made no effort to try to stop the brewing tension in the room. She's no longer your mate, and the earlier you get used to this, the better for all of us. Mind your tone and language. This is barbaric. You're cheating on Mum behind her and displaying this openly. What kind of an alpha are you? She's also your Luna, and who will ever accept her as Luna? She's a narcissist, manipulative bitch and a poor rat who is looking for someone to leech her problems on. How did you ever fall into her trap? He yelled, and Evelyn's lips trembled at the hot, blasting words thrown at her. She wanted to slap him, but she might end up being dead, so she kept shut. That's no way to talk to your stepmother, Dylan. If you came for an event like this where everyone is gathered, don't you think you should try and show your dignity as an alpha and not have a wide mouth? She spat out at him and growled. His eyes blazed through the effects of the chandeliers, and she knew that she got him. The truth about being his stepmother would haunt him for years to come, and it felt so good. He could hang himself for all she cared, but she was beginning to like this part where the moon goddess decided to pet her with nature's good tidings. She was heartbroken, but she didn't have to fight to heal, nor did she have to think of ways to plot her revenge scheme when everything was already happening on a smooth slide before her. This is bullshit. I'm out of this nonsense gathering. I won't tolerate this rubbish, Father. This is an insult to my personality, and Mum would be so disappointed in you. You should respect her and not act like you always do. He sounded so bitter and pained. For a moment, Evelyn almost pitied him. She wanted to imagine being in his shoes and feel what he was going through, but she remembered the pains in her heart, and it hardened instantly. Your personality lies between your pack and your people, and not near my wife. I've always done nothing but accept you as my son despite everything that happened. You have no right to dictate how I live my life and rule my pack, or you'll be set as an example, Dylan. So you have an option to leave or stay, Adrian spat out with authority oozing out of his tone. The room became silent, and the happy tension had dissipated into the air, leaving everyone with sadness, which Evelyn was sure was directed at her. It made no sense that he looked more moderate and handsome than Dylan, whom she had always thought was a Greek god. Adrian was perfect in his way, and she feared his anger someday. She didn't wish to see that side because his tone alone was making the walls shake, and it made her wonder if he had any hidden powers in his body. "You know what?" Dylan said, and stared at all of them before swallowing hard. "Fuck you all." He turned to leave and turned the doorknob when he stopped suddenly and looked at her. "If you know what is good for you in your pathetic life, you will stay the hell out of my family, you slime whore." He shut the door behind, and Evelyn felt tears burn her eyes, but she would be a fool to let it fall. Nelly glared at her with the same intensity and followed him quietly after giving a "fuck you" sign with her fingers. The atmosphere returned heavily with awkwardness. The purpose of the event had turned sour, and the stares she was beginning to receive were making her skin burn. The moment she entered this room, she could already sense the disappointment on their faces. How much more a moment like this? "You should be with your inhaler all the time, Evie. It's risky." Adrian's rich tone and scent flooded her ears and nose as he pushed little Ventolin content into her hands. The men could kill her with their glare. These women openly sneered at her, but Adrian wasn't seeing that. He was focused on her actions the entire time. He didn't give a damn about anything in life, but she gave a damn. To them, she was a shameless whore who slept with her ex-mate's father to get back at him and would never be fit for their pack. But to Adrian, his gaze was loving and burning, but she suddenly felt the rage that was hiding inside her and stood up. "Where are you going? You should at least eat something." His panicked voice almost made her fall back to the seat and have a second thought, but she must face reality. "I'm knowing my place, Adrian, thanks for everything, but this shit won't work." She spat out and walked out of the mansion as if she knew where she was heading. Adrian bolted hotly after Evelyn immediately and dragged her back into one of the rooms. His breathing was ragged as he ruffled his hair and tried to steady his breath. His muscles moved at every reflex act he made, and the fact that he chose not to button up his shirt was very distracting. Half of his toned, hard, and sleek chest was peeking through. She recalled how her hands roamed tenderly on them, and how her hands had scratched on them. It was annoying how he looked effortlessly good. His power and authority suddenly made her feel so small. His domineering attitude was having a negative effect on her, and staying near wasn't going to be a better option at the moment. "What the fuck did you say back there, Evelyn?" He tried to be calm, but she could detect that failure at the hollow of his tone. He sounded so frustrated and disturbed. "I said what I said, Alpha. I'm not doing this with you. I need the money. My sister might die if she doesn't get her medications. My brother is staying with my parents who don't give a damn about our existence, but I can't do this." Her voice broke as she said those words. It stung like hell in her chest, and she was afraid of why this sounded more painful than what Dylan said to her at the Wolf Creek Gala. The fact that she might not get to be around him in a day to be free and get accustomed to his scent was killing her. "It's Adrian to you. Drop the bullshit," he growled, and her insides trembled. She felt instantly mortified. He sounded so scared that she shifted away from him. The funny and weird aspect was his facial expression was calm, classy, and fucking beautiful without stress, but the energy and heat from his body could burn any soul. "You're an alpha, that's what I heard them call you," she told him stubbornly. That Adrian sounded too perfect on her lips, too intimate and close. "What's this, Evelyn? Why are you doing this? You acted fine. Is it because of Dylan? Aren't you over him yet? Do you still love him?" That last word came with a bellow that made her palms cold. It was as if he was giving a warning that she might die if she dared admit to loving Dylan. "I can't do this, Adrian. I'll work for you. I'll do anything to let my sister live, but not as your Luna. I'm over Dylan. I won't succumb myself to a pitiable state and sulk over an asshole who doesn't deserve me." "Then why are you backing out all of a sudden?" He raised his voice in frustration and she bit her lip. "Because I want to." "You signed a contract." His tone became cold. He stared with an obsessive addiction, as if his eyes were going to be glued to her forever. "I can revoke it and file for a divorce. I'm not doing this with you, Adrian. You can find another to do this, but not me," she told him boldly despite her legs shaking. She didn't know this man, She didn't know what he could do if he was being pushed to his limits, and she didn't want to try, but she was not ready to be a victim of another bad reputation, or where she got to see Dylan's face as a daily reminder of her worst predicament. He could take these acts from his father too, who knows? No one ever goes back against the words of an alpha, neither can they revoke it. Have you forgotten the laws of the wolves? Are you tempting the moon goddess who created that law for every submissive pack member to follow? Are you defying me, Evelyn? Her eyes burned with unshed tears, and she let it flow this time. She made no effort to wipe her frustrations out as she yelled, "Don't use that on me, you're manipulating me." "I did? It was a mutual agreement, Evelyn. We wanted each other." He slammed the wall over her head and she flinched. Her body quaked in anger as she glared. "I did," she said softly, and his eyes masked total confusion. "I wanted this for myself until you lied to me. You're a liar, just like your son. You're going to divorce me and I'll get the hell out of here and face reality." Her body trembled at that statement and her breathing hitched. She hit her chest countless times before his sight to calm her breaths down before she got into another seizure to disgrace herself. It hurt so much, and she hated how he affected her in just 2 days. Why was she so mad and not looking over some things? He grabbed the inhaler from her hands and pushed it to her nose, and she gasped in a sigh of relief as she inhaled the contents and air in it. "I'm not Dylan. I'll never be like him, Evelyn. Why did you say I'm lying?" His voice became calm like a cool sea and like soft velvet wrapped on her skin. "You knew he was my ex, but you still came to me for a proposal. Is this your way of telling me I'm stupid that I'll still get to see him? Is your son playing tricks on me and you both planned this?" "Evelyn?" His eyes widened in shock, but she wasn't done. He was calm a bit this time. He returned to the normal golden brown eyes, and it wasn't blazing like before. "You are married. How can you have a pack and a son who is also an alpha? What on earth is going on? I've never felt so confused in my life. Why do you want to marry me when you already have a Luna? You're hurting me and I don't like it, Adrian. I'm not a whore. I'm not a husband snatcher, and I'm not ready to be one because I would feel bad if someone else takes my husband away from me." She told him with tears in her eyes, and she hated it. For he tended to make her weak even when she tried to be strong. His expression on his face was hooded with a guilty expression, but she was done. But she needed to leave. She was never getting herself entangled with a married man, especially when he had to do with her ex. "I'll answer your question only on one condition, Evelyn," he told her softly and stuck his hands into his pockets while he cocked his head to examine her confused expression. "What condition?" she asked him curiously. "For you're sticking with me and agreeing to the terms of the contract, or you will sign a contract termination fee that costs millions. You can choose, Evelyn, and I'll act on it." She stared at him with a glare and pointed at his face harshly. "That's not a condition but manipulation, Adrian. You know I don't have anything." He folded his arms across his chest and shrugged, grazing his sharp, subtle jaw with his fingers, which gave off the pose of a model. He shouldn't be this good-looking, not when he had a son that she detested so much. But how could one look this perfect? His sunny brown hair matched with his honeycomb eyes, which twinkled with anticipation of her answers. "It's a choice, Evelyn. You only need to choose one, and we will be even." His deep voice reverberated in her ears, and she bit her lips. He wanted her to stay. This wasn't a matter of condition, but a fixed context that she wasn't going anywhere, no matter how she was going to try. She went backward away from him and sat on the king-sized bed. She never even had the time to take a look at the room, but the expensive decor on the bed and the marble tiles that shone like gold was enough to tell her the answer that it was not a joke. The carats of gold designs were flawless, and it made her wonder how people started to make so much to get to this stage. "I don't know what to say to you, Adrian," she told him sincerely with a soft voice, and he sighed. "Bar, you want the truth, right? I'll tell you, but you're not leaving. I don't care what you had with my son, but it's over. You're mine now." "Why are you doing this to your Luna? Isn't that supposed to be the first consideration in doing all of this? She's a woman like me, and no one would be happy about this, no matter your authority as an alpha." She vented out sincerely to him, and he bit his lower lip sensually and came closer to her. His scent hit her like a powerful wave. She didn't have a wolf due to her terminal condition, or it would kill them both, but it didn't stop the kind of effect that was making her feel heated. She got so shameless and burned up to the extent of sleeping with him. "Hey, look at me, Evelyn." She obeyed and stared at his royal eyes to find answers, but it wasn't written there. She needed him to say it with his mouth, as she was totally lost. "I have the power to marry another woman whether or not I have a Luna, except she's my mate," he told her with a sigh and squatted before her, making it easier to have full access to his face and domineering body, which seemed submissive at the moment. "She's not your mate?" she asked, and he nodded, pushing a strand of her hair to the back like a habit he was fond of. "She isn't. She's someone I married to secure the throne. Let's say I loved her, but things changed." Evelyn didn't know why she felt a jealous stab at the back of her heart at that word. Loved her, but things changed. And that feeling disappeared instantly. But what happened? Nothing. I realized she lied to me about something crucial to sabotage our relationship, and I'm no longer interested. I can't stay under the same roof with your wife no matter the sins of the past. I won't survive it, Adrian, because she's still your wife. She told him worriedly, and he nodded. "I understand. We are not staying together at the moment, and we already filed for a divorce, which she happily signed recently. She's still a Luna because we haven't made an official announcement about it yet, and I couldn't do that, or it would be risky for my throne and authority," he explained without remorse. His face was blank and void of emotions. She felt there was more to what he was telling her. "For why did you divorce her, Adrian?" He stared at her for a while and looked away without saying a word, which made her gulp. "It's okay, I'm just curious as to why you divorced your Luna who gave you an heir. I'm confused as to why Dylan stays in a different pack as an Alpha, and you have a different pack as well." "I own Wolf Creek, I'm just not active to foresee what goes on there. It's the Annex pack to Blue Knight pack right here where you're staying. The hospital you were admitted to, and the Soul facilities over there, all belong to Wolf Creek pack as well. I couldn't leave it idle when I had a son to take over. My sweat, blood, and tears lie here in Blue Knight, and you're going to be my Luna," he explained, and she now understood why here looked more advanced and larger. It was more exquisite, and she was baffled at the resources he had in both packs. "Adrian, I'll protect you, Evelyn. Nothing will happen as long as you're mine, and as long as you stick to the agreement. You can choose to stay apart from me, but becoming my Luna and carrying my heir is the most vital part for me. It's all a choice." He sounded confident, and she knew she was stuck. She was going to be his Luna, and things were moving so fast. She didn't know if what she felt was an attraction, infatuation, or lust at the moment due to the neglect she recently felt, and the sudden care she hadn't received for years. She just couldn't trust Adrian fully, no matter the sincere and pure intentions he claimed to have for her. She just felt she was walking into a trap that was inviting her, and it was way too enticing to ignore it. "I'll stay away for a while, Adrian." She could see the disappointment on his face, but he nodded with understanding and bit his lips. "I'll stick to the agreement as well, but I need space for now to think. I know I brought this upon myself without thinking, but the more I delve into this, I realize it's more than just being your Luna and saving my sister. I don't like what I'm feeling. I need to kill it before it brews up into something else." "Breathe," she told him sincerely, and he swallowed. "Take your time. Your sister is being transferred to one of the hospitals here, so you can have access to her any time. I'll send my men with you in case you want to go anywhere." "The last part isn't necessary. I can always—" "Beer, it's an order, Evelyn. You're going with them so your safety can be ensured. Just have a rest for now." He stood up and his knuckles cracked with his bones. "I like what I'm feeling, Evelyn. You're the first person to bring it out in me, and I have no plans to kill it. Do what you want, but I'll make sure to prove you wrong, that I'm nothing like Dylan." He released a sigh and turned to exit the room, making her wallow in guilt and confusion. "I don't think it ended well in there. This would be the first time I'm able to detect an expression from you, Alpha," Reagan spurted out as he stood behind Adrian on the balcony of the mansion, where he decided to clear his head off in cool air. "This would be the 100th time I will remind you to stop trying to detect expressions and reactions in me, Reagan. I'm never going to be affected by anything except my authority." "Well, that just sounded like a pit from hell, Alpha. I'll stop for now so you won't break down due to rejection and the sudden appearance of your son." Adrian groaned and threw him a cold glare, but Regan didn't flinch. He knew he got him this time. Adrian was feeling so drained and disappointed, and Regan was dying to see him at his worst moment. She didn't reject me. She only demanded some space, which I don't think I can handle. Adrian scoffed at her words again, and his wolf, Helly, growled in disappointment too. They both wanted her at that moment. It wasn't fair that she was beautiful, taunting him with the faint scent of arousal which came on and off at different intervals, only to get that from her. At least you admitted to something, Alpha. Give her time, as she's said. As long as she's agreed to be your Luna, then there's nothing to be worried about, as she would come over eventually. She has a very lively personality and is freaking beautiful too. He was right about his words, but Adrian frowned at the last part. He had no right to compliment her like that, as if he had been checking her out. The hybrid hunters are at it again, Alpha, far worse than this, as they know about your marital affair being broken and would strike any time soon. He told Adrian with urgency, and he growled in disgust, becoming extremely serious and angry. Who the fuck told them about my divorce? He fisted his hands against the wall and growled. I can't say, Alpha, but another attack on the pack won't be favorable right now. We know we can handle them, but that's not what other packs would say when they realize the truth about you being divorced. It would breed that as a weakness against the pack, and, Boar, she's mine already, Regan. We just need to make it official. The hunters shouldn't mess with him this time, not when Evelyn had barely settled down, not when she was yet to acknowledge the situations around her only to be welcomed with a gothic view of his inner beast. You should, or Dylan would strike too. I overheard him talking on the phone with a friend to make sure Evelyn is being watched out. I don't know what that meant, but I don't think it's good, Alpha. We have pending issues on the ground, like defeating the Alpha of White Onyx and your ex-wife, who has something rolled up in her sleeve. The information was too much for Adrian to take in at once. He knew that was the daily problem he faced every day as an Alpha, but this one was way too much for a start, especially when it had to do with Evelyn. He felt so disturbed, and showing weakness wasn't something that was a part of him. Look after Evelyn for a while. I'll deal with the others and make sure no one messes with the pack as a whole. How is the treatment for her little sister? I need the best doctors to conduct her surgery before she's given access to be seen by Evelyn. He told Regan, and he frowned in confusion. Bar, you didn't pass an order concerning that Alpha. Adrian placed his middle finger on his forehead in frustration and groaned. I passed an order, Regan. You're supposed to approve that since morning. Evelyn's little sister is supposed to be transferred to the VIP hospital here in the pack. What the fuck are you talking about? Didn't you receive any order like that? He asked him, and fury rushed in his blood. He doubted Regan would act so confused about something, especially when he knew about it. I'm sorry, Alpha, nothing like that was passed aside from the information I knew about her sister in Creek's hospital. Adrian fetched his phone and placed a call to alert the senior doctor in charge whom he had conversed with at the hospital, and he picked it up immediately. Alpha Adrian, is there any... why the fuck isn't she transferred yet to the pack for treatment? He hesitated for a while before answering with fear evident in his voice. The little girl was transferred last night according to your order to Blue Knight Pack Alpha. She's no longer here. Is there any problem? You have just 1 hour to explain the bullshit you just spewed to me right now, or your blood and that of your family would wash my blades if I don't see that little girl now. Adrian roared and left the balcony immediately and walked towards the hospital she was supposed to be transferred to. Do you think something bad happened? BR, something isn't fucking right, Regan. I gave an order last night and she's not here. Someone is messing with me and it's not going to be funny. Adrian went to the hospital barely 5 minutes after speeding off with his car with Regan, who had begun to ask questions from others. The moment he entered the hospital, the atmosphere became stiff and cold and every movement ceased at that point. I need a simple answer. A little girl diagnosed with stage 4 cancer is supposed to be here. Where is she and which ward? They all swallowed in horror and glanced at each other in fear. He was pissed. Hell was ready to surge out to destroy because this was a breach of his authority. What if something bad had happened? Goddess. He didn't want to imagine it. He didn't want to imagine that he'd be the reason for the little girl's life. I asked a question. He slammed his fist on the table and they all flinched. Bar, we didn't receive anyone Alpha. Not a single order was sent as well. My apologies, please. He turned to Regan, who looked confused as well, and bit his lips hard enough to draw blood. Hide this from Evelyn like your life depends on it. I need to visit Wolf Creek Pack. That little girl is kidnapped, and I need to find out who did that myself. Copy that, Alpha. He nodded at Adrian, and he went on a journey of destruction. Evelyn woke up feeling warm and giddy about nothing. She didn't like the fact that this mansion was too big or the maids were too much and stared at her as if she was an outcast, but she didn't care. She was here now, and Adrian had made it clear that she was stuck to him. She was served with a breakfast of bacon, fried omelet eggs, pasta with cheese and fruits. She declined the maid's offer to help her out with her hair and to make her bath. She didn't trust anyone to stab her in the back while her eyes were closed. Aren't you so shameless right now? She heard a deep voice behind her, and she almost froze at that point. She knew his musky scent even in her dreams and nightmares, so she didn't need a soothsayer to tell her he was the one standing behind her. She paid no attention to his existence and continued eating slowly, taking her time to savor the juicy taste on her tongue. How dare you, Evelyn, I'm talking to you. He roared in anger and came to stand before her. His hair was sleek and damp with sweat, rolling through his shirtless self that made her cringe. He must have returned from a workout, but she didn't seem to care. He was distracting her precious meal right now, and it was annoying. Go fuck your Luna and let me be shameless in peace, Dylan. You will never stay in this pack and disgrace me as my wife's sister. What the hell are you trying to imply here? That you got your revenge scheme and it tastes so good? Don't you have any dignity left as a woman? His jaw twitched with every word that spurted out from his mouth, and she nodded, taking the glass cup to drink the water before dropping it. I dropped my dignity the day you made me realize I was stupid for sticking to you all this while, trusting and supporting you. I might not have anything, but you know nothing about ruling and managing a large pack like Wolf Creek. I did a lot in my condition, and you tossed me aside like trash and fucked my sister. Fuck dignity. I'm your stepmother, asshole, and I demand some respect. She blasted hotly at him and half screamed at his sudden outburst. He swiped the food she was eating with his hands, and a loud smashing on the floor echoed in the room. Dylan gripped her hair so hard that she could feel her scalp pulling out with force. His hands trembled on her head. She could see, feel, and taste the venom dripping from his actions, and she never realized that he had a hidden monster in that black-stoned heart of his. Tears burned her eyes as she raised her hands to struggle in his hold, but he was too strong, too mad, and his wolf had taken over. Don't you ever call yourself that again. His deadly tone dropped and she trembled against his hold. You don't want to mess with me in that pathetic life of yours. I will make sure I lock you up in a dark room filled with smoke and watch you struggle with air. You're never going to be a part of me. You're a liability, and you will always be one till you die, because you know what? You're fucking useless. A weak, useless habit in this wolf territory where your place belongs to those weak humans loitering around. You're a disgrace to womanhood, and doing this with my father has proved you one. Her breath seized as her heart burned and struggled to take in air. She winced in pain and frustration. She needed her inhaler, but it was at the farther end of the table. I will destroy you if you don't get the hell out of this pack in 24 hours and make an apology post to the whole pack for the stunt you caused. She scratched his hands and opened her mouth for air, but Dylan didn't give a damn. He knew she needed her inhaler, but he only smirked and gripped her hair tighter. Dylan! She gasped and gritted her teeth in pain. Or cry? He blurted out, and her tears burned her eyes more, threatening to slide down. You act like a mighty bitch, but deep down you're a weak, stupid whore. Just let the tears out and I will get your inhaler. You're a demon, Dylan. Why were you hiding in the shadows all this while? She yelled at him, and the tears fell hotly. She felt so angry and pained at the velocity of his words thrown at her. How she was just living in her delusional world for years and thinking that she had a future with this psychopath. She thought he harbored any feelings for her, but she was a game he was playing. Good girl, cry more or you won't get that inhaler. Please, Dylan. She winced and burst into tears. She felt so suffocated, her heart burned badly, and she just wanted to give it up so she could go into rest, but she couldn't. Her siblings were going to need her. She needed to take care of them, or they would end up in the same fate as her. He smirked in satisfaction, and released his hold on her hair, which quaked relief in her body. He fetched her inhaler and brought it to her nose, which she eagerly and desperately wanted to grab, but he threw it away randomly and shrugged at her. You should die, that would be best, so I won't get to see your face and hear you call me your stepson again. Your little sister would die too, so why not just join her? I'll make your brother a beta when he grows up with my son in the future. She fell to the floor and trembled. She wasn't supposed to stress her heart. It affected her more quickly than being in smoke and crowded area like poison. She needed her inhaler or he was going to win. She glanced around for it, but she couldn't take a glimpse. She coughed hard, and she thought it was the end for her when she heard a loud crack of bones and a painful grunt that escaped his lips. A calm, towering figure grabbed her instantly to sit on the chair and push the inhaler into her nose, and she almost cried in relief as the menthol hit her brain and circulated her whole body back to life. How dare you touch her? What the fuck did you do? A punch was sent over and over again to Dylan's face, whose powerful thrusts were dodged and his body was slammed to the wall. Fuck you, Reagan, he roared and wiped the blood on his nose. No fuck you till your dad hears about this. You have no right to touch her. You almost killed her, you deranged psycho, he yelled, and she sighed in relief, almost falling back to sleep. And she has no right to be here as well. You think this is funny that I get to stare at my ex getting married to my father? I think this is the point where I'll rip your dignity off as an alpha if you don't get the fuck out of my sight this minute. An event was prepared for you last night and it's over, just leave already because nothing would change the deed. Touch her again, and you won't have a nose to breathe and a bone to shift into your wolf, he threatened, and she got scared for Dylan. She knew Adrian was powerful in his aura and authority, but this one seemed he carried the presence of a warrior. His hands were hard when he pushed the inhaler to her, the hands of a trained warrior and the presence of an alpha. He turned to her and observed her state, feeling her forehead with the back of his hand, and Dylan left with a growl. Are you okay? She nodded without saying a word, and he pushed the water to her. Drink everything. She obeyed instantly and gulped it all while he stared at the mess on the floor and called the maids to wipe it off. Thank you, I thought I was going to die for a second, haha. I can't believe I cried for that idiot. If only I got a signal you'd be coming, I would have insulted him instead with pride. She chuckled and his face broke into a smile. His features might be hard, but his smile killed everything. He should be in his late 30s, having a killer vibe and stern face, but seemed to show her a different side. Adrian had the look of a chameleon. He could switch from being soft, angry, hard, and deadly, which she hadn't seen before, but Regan was plain, hard, mature, and cool. I'm Regan, Adrian's beta. You can just call the guards, or reach me out through the link if something like this happens again. He told her, and she twitched her lips. That's the problem, Regan. I don't have a wolf. I'm sorry to hear that. Regan apologized sincerely, and Evelyn nodded. Don't be, my sickness won't let her come to me, so I'm stuck, she told him, and he twitched his lips in empathy, asking for another round meal which she had lost her appetite for. That won't be necessary. I've lost my appetite. I want to visit my parents and bring my brother along. Adrian says it's okay. Can I go now, and where is he? I haven't seen him since I woke up. He released a sigh and nodded at her, stuffing his hands into his pocket. You can go, I will drop you off, but Adrian isn't available at the moment due to some pending challenges that need to be tackled. He told her, and she nodded, thanking him again before she got ready to prepare to meet her parents. She wore a strapless green knee-length gown and put on a black jacket to cover her back skin due to the cold and brushed her hair softly to straighten the tangled side of it. Knowing she wasn't going to meet anyone special, she left the room to meet Regan, who was patiently waiting for her. They got to the garage of the mansion, and she was shocked at the classy Porsche car he hopped in for a ride. It's a long 1-hour drive, you don't want to stand there all day long. He rolled down the window and told her with a chuckle, making her snap out of her oblivion to join him. The cool air-conditioned and sweet smell of the car hit her, and she just wanted to moan in relief. In no time, they were driving out of the pack, and a sudden realization hit her. Can you take me to the hospital here? Adrian mentioned something about my sister being transferred, and I haven't seen her since yesterday. His body stiffened at once, and his knuckles whitened on the steering as he drove. You will check on her later, he told her. I didn't check on her yesterday and last 2 nights ago. I know you're busy, but can I just have a glimpse to be sure she's okay? She wasn't in a good condition the last time I saw her. We already passed the hospital, Luna. We can always come back to check on her, he told her with a curt voice that made the tension around them awkward, and she nodded and bit her lips, giving it all up. She'd ask Adrian instead when he came back home. She reached her house and got extremely eager to see her little brother. The sight of this environment was already making her puke. She hated the memories that came with it. The attitude of her parents and father, who was never in support of her no matter what she said. Regan volunteered to stay outside, and she was glad because she couldn't afford to let him witness the kind of parents she had. However, the moment she entered, she was met with a scene that made her body quake in anger. "What the hell, Max?" she screamed at her brother, who was seriously scrubbing the floor with a hard brush while crying. He looked so haggard and tired that he flinched at her voice, but when he saw her, excitement took over his entire body instantly, and he rushed to meet her. "Evie!" he cried in relief, and she didn't know how to reply to him aside from looking for someone to scream at. He was just 4 years old who knew nothing. She did that job while staying here, and she suffered from back pains and barely recovered. "What are you doing? Who asked you to do such rubbish?" "Aunt Nelly gave the order. She said I must do it or Mitchell will die when she gets to the hospital herself," he told her, and she believed him instantly. He was being blackmailed to do that because she knew how stubborn Max could be. He wouldn't do anything no matter what. "I was scared, Evie. I thought I wasn't going to see you again. Why did you leave me? Mum said we should never leave each other. Are you leaving me again?" He cried in fear, and pain and guilt stabbed her so hard in the chest that tears almost circulated through her eyes. "We are leaving together, okay? You're not staying here again, and you'll get to attend a real academy, okay?" she told him, and heard footsteps emerging from one of the rooms while talking. "Why is this spot still dirty? How many times will I tell you that you're no longer a baby Maxwell?" "Max!" Nelly yelled in anger, and Evelyn's hands shook. She grabbed the bucket of soapy water and waited till Nelly came out and splashed the contents on her body instantly, which made her erupt into a scream. "Bitch!" she screamed in horror, but Evelyn slapped her hard and yelled, "He's just 4 years old, Nelly. How dare you ask him to scrub the hard tiles? Are you insane?" she screamed at her, and Nelly was ready to hit her in full-blown rage, but she pushed her back to the chair. "Don't mess with me, Nelly. Not with him ever again. Just because you're now fucking the Alpha gives you the right to talk back at me, right? You're so pathetic and useless as always, that you're willing to let this little boy follow the same path. He's willing to learn, unlike a brat like you. This would be the first time you will see him here. Focus on your new marriage and leave us alone." She turned to her brother, who stared at her eagerly. "Go get your important stuff, Max. We are leaving," she told him, and turned to leave only to receive a hot slap from her mother, who appeared from nowhere. It stung so hard like hot spice, and she bit her lips to keep herself from breaking down. "You're a very ungrateful, useless soul. Your sister was there for you and saved us from disgrace during the gala that happened. Why can't you lay aside bitterness and move on?" But her stepmother stared at her with irritation, and Evelyn nodded, smiling at her. "I understand. I won't have to act bitterly again from now henceforth. Thanks for being the best mother in the whole world since mine died," she told her with bitter sarcasm, and brushed past her to leave when she froze at her next words. "Your father is sick. He needs the sum of $5 million to be treated. I'm sure you understand what that means if something isn't done about it." And that's where we're pausing for now. But hold on. This is definitely not the end of Evelyn's story. We've only just scratched the surface of this intense, dramatic journey. There are so many unanswered questions, aren't there? What happened to Melissa? Is she really kidnapped, or is something even more sinister going on? Will Evelyn discover the truth about her sister's disappearance? How will she handle her father's sudden illness and her stepmother's demands for $5 million? And what about Adrian? Will he be able to protect Evelyn from Dylan's threats and the dangerous, hybrid hunters closing in on the pack? The tension is building, the stakes are getting higher, and trust me, things are about to get even more explosive in the next part. So here's what I need from you. Do you want part 2? If you're dying to know what happens next, if you're invested in Evelyn and Adrian's story, and if you want to see how this all unfolds, let me know right now in the comment section below. Drop a yes part 2 or tell me what you think is going to happen next. Your comments will determine whether we continue this journey together. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when part 2 drops. Share this with your friends who love steamy werewolf romance. But remember, only share it with adults who can handle the heat. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. See you in the comments, and hopefully, see you in part 2.